Nested objects are similar to nested arrays. In fact, nested arrays are nested objects, but not all objects are nested arrays. So anyway, basically any single property in an object can be another object. This is called composition. So we will learn about composition versus inheritance later, but essentially composition is if something has something, and inheritance is if something is something. That's the best way to define it early on. So this is composed of telescope, which is an object of telescope information, and then you've got a crew, or the captain of a person. There's information about that thing. And then engine, this is an object containing information about the engine. This is nanoelectronics, containing two things that should have the same data structure, but it doesn't. Okay, no, I understand why it doesn't. But if this was an array, I thought this was an array at first, but it's not. If it's an array, it should have the same data structure. But these are two different things. This is a computer with 100 terabytes of information. God, I wish. And then monitors, HD, which means next to nothing. Like, is it 4K? Is it 1080p? I mean, 720 used to be considered HD, like, whatever. So basically, this is composed of a bunch of information, and I'm using that term very specifically. It is composed off of that information because each of these objects are referencing something that is named, and all of that is inside of a spaceship object. So, create a variable, okay, cap fave, const cap fave, and we're going to access the favorite food of the captain. Okay, so we're going to look spaceship, and the captain, or the favorite foods, is here. Okay, so the parent thing is captain, then crew, and then it goes spaceship. So we're going to go spaceship.crew.captain, and then favorite foods. Let's log it. Console.log cap fave. It worked. Yay. Really? Oh, the 0th indexed. Okay, that's actually fair. Hey, let me scroll. Dang it. Okay, I'm going to do that so I can scroll. Favorite foods, and it's the 0th indexed. I missed that part. Yeah, run. Cookies. Yep, everyone likes cookies. So, right now, the passenger's properties value, passengers has value of null. So that's this guy. Instead, assign it to an array of objects. Okay, when you do these, you should always have each object be the same data structure. It doesn't have to contain the same data. Like, the length could, I don't know, like if it's a person, the names could be all different, but each object should contain the same properties, even though they may not have the same values. Okay, so that's what I mean by data structure. So, make at least one passenger object that has one key value pair on it. So let's say name Taylor. That's me. Let's run it. Did that work? Yes. Okay, create a variable first passenger. Const first passenger equals the 0th index of that. So spaceship ship.passengers 0. Let's log it. Console.log first passenger. Okay. Make sure to use the bracket and dot notation to get the passenger object. Okay. Don't just copy the object into the variable. So this is important because if I copy the object into the variable, if I copy this, and I do this, okay, and then I change first passenger, first passenger dot name equals hi. Console.log first passenger, and console.log spaceship.passengers. So if I run this, the name is hi and the name is Taylor. Okay, so that's one important thing that, like, you have to make sure that you're like not just creating a new object. This is creating a new object, and it's also creating a new object over here. Okay, so now I'm going to do this. This is the same concept that we talked about before with making sure that your pointers are pointing to what you want them to be pointing to, or your variables are pointing to the exact thing you want them to be pointing to. So if I point it to spaceship.passengers 0, passengers 0, and I run this, this now says hi because I have assigned first passenger to be this precise object. And so if I change something inside of first passenger, I will be changing the properties inside of that object. And so that's why it says don't just copy the object into a variable, because they have it's doing two different things with the memory. And as you can see, when I change it here on first passenger, it's also changing it instead of spaceship.passengers. You can see it. It's changed right there. And if I just do that so you can see in globally, passengers name is hi. I didn't do spaceship.passengers 0.name equals hi. I did it here, right? These two things would be doing the exact same thing. Okay? So that's just important to understand when you have just how objects are pointed to. Okay? What's next? Pass by reference. Which, I mean, this is exactly what I was talking about. Write a function called green energy. So I think this is applying exactly what I was talking about just now. So const green energy is a new function parameter that sets object's fuel type that has an object as a parameter. Object fuel type equals avocado oil. Okay, so here's the thing. As I mentioned earlier in one of the array things I was doing, I think it was called array functions or functions within arrays or something like that. I was talking about the same thing. This is what is called oh my God, what is it called? A side effect in functional programming. Side effects are not allowed. So if you pass something in, you cannot change the state of it. You can use the information inside of it, but you cannot change the state of it. The only place that I can change the state of is within either the scope that it was defined or in the object itself inside of its own methods and stuff. So this is technically bad code, and I don't like how Codecademy is showing this off. This is bad writing. This is just not good. Don't do this. So green energy, we have run that. Okay. So write a function called remotely disable. Const remotely disable has an object as a parameter and sets or reassigns that object's disabled property to true. Object dot disabled equals true. Okay, run that. Call your two functions and then log the information. So green energy spaceship, and then remotely disable spaceship. To confirm these properties were changed or added, console.log spaceship. So I don't like this because these functions are directly interacting with the object state, and it's just not good. So this could be inside of a different function. And generally when you're doing stuff, you're going to have a main function, const main equals this, and you'll be passing this in. This will still work. And you call your main function. So this will still have the same output. But the thing is, these functions are defined out of the scope, and they're changing the state of this object. I really don't like that. That is just not good practice. These could be in completely different files or just embedded inside of some other package, and you wouldn't even tell that there's a change unless you directly console.log it and be like, whoa, that's changed. Why is it changed now? And that's happened to me multiple occasions inside of packages that are like integrated, like Deno's ecosystem. There's something that it goes wrong. I'd have to show you a video of it, but there's something weird that's happening inside of there that I don't understand, and it has to do with one of the packages that deals with HTTPS. But anyway, so in order to do this right, what you should do is not that. So get rid of those and you'd create a method on it. So first, you should initialize every single aspect of it. Even if it's undefined, you should still initialize it. So disabled can be something. Disabled, and this could be either true or false. So let's make it false. Okay, disabled is false, and then we're going to add a couple methods. So green energy is going to be a method that is called that sets this dot fuel type equals avocado oil, and then you have a remotely disable is a function that says this dot disabled equals true. So that's where the this keyword comes into play. This is actually referencing this spaceship, hence this. So when you say, I mean, if you hover over it, you can actually see the different properties of it and see that fuel type is a string, home planet is a string, disabled is Boolean. You can see the other methods as well. So if I say spaceship dot green energy console.log spaceship, and I run it, you can see that green energy has, or the fuel type has been changed to avocado oil. If I don't run this, it's turbo fuel. So this is, in my opinion, the correct way to do what they're asking you to do, because these are directly interacting with the object's own state, and it's integrated in the object's what's called the prototype, right? We talked about prototype earlier. So this is integrated inside of the object as methods inside of its own prototype, and that's how any change of state should happen. Or, because this is in the global scope, I'm okay with also doing spaceship.disable equals true. That is also, in my opinion, valid, and it doesn't actually, or disabled is true. This, in my opinion, is also valid because you are within the same scope and you're changing aspects of it after you initialize it. Okay. And you may think like, why don't you just put that true in here? But when you're dealing with like classes and stuff and something like that, like you could have a function called const get spaceship, and it returns this. And then you say let spaceship equals get spaceship. So this is the default spaceship that it returns, but you want to disable it. Spaceship dot disable equals true. Okay. This is also a valid thing to do, because this is outside of the, or this is inside the same scope in which the spaceship was, or the object was defined or assigned. Okay. So this gets into parameters of stuff, but I really want to teach this early on so that you don't, I mean, honestly, how they're teaching it is less maintainable. You get back into your code a year later and you're looking back at it and you're like, what was I doing? Oh my God, this sucks. Because you're using these bad practices that Codecademy is teaching you that have side effects, and that teaches you early on side effects are okay when they shouldn't be. JavaScript allows it because JavaScript sucks, but it shouldn't be okay. But if you maintain a strict paradigm on how to for functional programming, if you maintain that paradigm, you're going to be okay. And it'll actually be a lot easier to maintain in the future. It may be more difficult to build at first, but coming back at it, it'll be like a year later, it'll make more sense, and it'll be more maintainable. So please trust me on that. If you see yourself doing something like this with functions with side effects, stop, find a different way to do it, because there should be. There just should be. So, methods and references and stuff like that. I don't know, but maybe, what is that what this is called? Nested objects. Maybe that's what it was called with referencing and stuff. All right.